Welcome to the Elite Universe, Commander. My name is Drew Wager, a lifelong fan of the Elite franchise. If you're looking for an orientation on this decade-spanning game, you've come to the right place. This is the Meta-Lore, the new era, the Elite Dangerous Odyssey launch and reception. For some time during the Horizons period of Elite Dangerous, Frontier Developments had indicated that much of the development team were working on the new era. This appears to have started sometime in the summer of 2018, but it wasn't until the 3rd of June 2020 that the next expansion to Elite Dangerous was officially announced. A video trailer and post on the official forums heralded that the new era would be titled Elite Dangerous Odyssey. On-legs gameplay had been expected, but a surprising additional bonus was the introduction of planets with thin atmospheres. The trailer promised foot gameplay, in some ways very reminiscent of the current spaceship gameplay, with the player able to undertake ground missions featuring diplomacy, commercial ventures, combat, salvage, theft, and piracy. The first in-game footage of Odyssey was seen at the Game Awards in 2020 in December, showing a first-person shooter-style gameplay and some avatars walking around on the surface of planets with blue skies. Much was made of what Frontier called the Armstrong moment, the sense of taking your first steps on a new and unexplored planet or moon. Originally, the new expansion was scheduled for December 2020 release, but this was moved into spring 2021 prior to the end of 2020, and on January the 13th, 2021, Frontier announced that the release roadmap for the expansion had shifted due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, with the PC version delayed until spring, and the console versions, for PS4 and Xbox One, delayed until autumn. Prior to the launch, an alpha version of Odyssey was made available to players who already held lifetime expansion passes or paid for access to the alpha. The alpha ran from March the 29th and was divided into 4 phases, with each phase of the game opening up additional functionality. In Phase 1, players did not have access to their saved games, only able to move about by use of the Apex Interstellar Taxi service, and were limited to a single star system. In Phase 2, notable conflict zones were introduced. In Phase 3, the focus was on exploration and a new tool called the Genetic Sampler. And finally, Phase 4 imported player saves and gave them access to their own ships. There was some surprise noted at the introduction of space taxis, with many players wondering who the feature was aimed at. Others noted that the new galaxy map and outfitting menus had been radically overhauled, and the usability of the new interface was questioned. Many users had performance issues with the alpha, but it was clearly stated that the build was not well optimized, and there was a much more advanced build being prepped for the actual release. The exploration content was not generally well received. The scanner itself had a repetitive 3-tier align the circles by clicking element, where failure to match a circle reset the entire system. Outcry over this was noted, and the feature was slated to be removed. It was also noted that the new flora introduced into Odyssey was not going to be procedurally generated, leading players to cite concerns that the gameplay would quickly become repetitive. The Armstrong moment turned out to be nothing more than the basic fade to black and appear on the ground, and has been endlessly lampooned in the Elite Dangerous community, becoming a meme in itself. However, overall sentiment on the alpha was that the game showed enormous promise and was set to significantly expand the content of the game, allowing it to compete more effectively with other games in the same arena. On the 22nd of April, in the midst of the alpha, the release date of the 19th of May was set. Frontier Developments were going from the alpha build to release, a mere 2 weeks after the alpha closed. There was to be no beta version. Players had been reassured that the performance issues present in the alpha would be dealt with. A mention of a far more mature and optimised branch of code was made during the Frontier livestreams, and Frontier were accepting feedback via online tools in terms of bugs and feature change suggestions based on player experiences of the alpha. In addition to the phased approach and gameplay additions, Odyssey had new lighting and new planetary tech, ground facilities, space station interiors, and was going to introduce new engineers and upgradability for surface equipment such as suits and weapons. On May 12th, Frontier announced that Odyssey and Horizons players would not be able to instance together and share gameplay due to the new technology involved in Odyssey. This split in the game community would last until the console version was launched and the Horizon version of the game updated to include the new Odyssey technology. Console launch was still slated for autumn. Whilst benefiting from the new tech on existing planets, Horizon owners would not have access to on-foot gameplay, nor would they be able to land on the new thin atmosphere planets. The alpha came to a close when some text appeared on screen paraphrasing Douglas Adams. "See you all on the 19th. So long and thanks for all the fish." The alpha closed with most players cautiously optimistic about the on-foot experience and what it would bring to Elite Dangerous. Many were concerned over what they considered to be a premature release schedule, citing the lack of a beta version. Others pointed out that Frontier's financial year came to an end at the end of May, and that the release was being forced into that timescale regardless, so that Frontier could keep to promised deadlines in its annual reports. Regardless, Elite Dangerous Odyssey launched, as promised, on May 19th, for PC only. Almost immediately, problem reports began to appear on the official forums, Reddit, and other social media outlets. The reports cited multiple issues, some with severe performance problems, others reported missions that didn't work, game crashes and connection issues to the online servers which support the game. Reports were often inconsistent, with some players apparently having no issues at all, but others, often with highly capable hardware, reporting the game was unplayable. Problems seemed to congregate on the on-foot elements of the gameplay, particularly in conflict areas, or areas with complex environments, glass panels, or fires present. Hot fixes were quickly rolled out, but they didn't seem to address the issues that most players were experiencing. Within a week, 3,000 reviews of Odyssey had accumulated on the game's Steam page, with more than 2,200 of them being negative, and the aggregated review status quickly dropped to mostly negative. Many players were incensed at the low quality of the release, and wondered what had happened to the optimized branch of code that Frontier had promised. Within 2 days, CEO David Braben was forced to write a humiliating post on the Frontier forums with an apology which was carefully couched to those suffering from these problems. Notably, he did not apologize for the state of the game itself. Reviews of Odyssey began to appear in the popular gaming press, and these were also almost overwhelmingly negative in tone, citing players' reaction to the performance and bug issues. The impact of the release also had an effect on the Frontier share price, dropping it down to a mere 68% of its value when compared to the beginning of the year. Player numbers, based on indicative but incomplete figures, spiked on the release of the expansion, but now appear to have fallen to a low not seen for many years. David Braben had promised a roadmap describing what Frontier intended to do to fix the catastrophic launch of Odyssey. This was posted on June the 4th, and described a series of 5 updates, effectively patches, which would run until early July. The notes were surprisingly short, mostly consisting of the phrase, "many improvements and fixes." Throughout this, many players and community representatives were lamenting the poor communication Frontier was giving regarding both the state of the game and what they intended to do about it. Frontier's community management team fronted most of this frustration, either on the forums or on their live stream presentations, leading to some changes in the tone and level of detail being expressed by the same community managers. More clarity and content streams from the developers were promised. As part of this greater transparency, it was announced that no further VR support for Odyssey was going to be provided. On-foot players would experience a panel only in their headsets, and that there were no plans for ship interiors, a feature many players had requested. Also, there were apparently no plans for current-gen consoles such as the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Odyssey remains currently only available for PS4 and Xbox One. Other problems also came to light. It was quickly found the new terrain technology had multiple issues. The 2 key ones were that texture patterns were spotted in obviously repeating forms, leading to an outcry again from the exploration community, alongside problems where textures themselves either failed to load or were very poor quality. Lighting in the game was also problematic, with a balance of opinion stating that the game was simply too dark. Add to this the occasional instance of invisible rocks on planet surfaces, causing damage to players' SRVs. The updates were rolled out in quick succession. Some players certainly reported improvements as a result of the updates, though the fixes did not seem universal in application. Knowledgeable community members were able to analyse some of the problems and reported that poor occlusion and insufficient optimisation were likely to blame. The promised development stream was not delivered, replaced by a rather curt post on the forums, which, whilst providing some details, basically amounted to "we're working on fixes." With the delivery of Update 5, the roadmap came to an end. The game was noticeably improved, at least for some players, and changes to lighting, performance, bugs, missions and user interface design, but it remains far from the polished product that the previous Horizon version represents. As to what is next, Frontier have indicated that their plan is to work their optimizations to ensure that Odyssey works on PS4 and Xbox One by their stated release date of autumn 2021. Many players have cited concerns on how the in-game technology may need to be considerably dumbed down in order to achieve this, noting that the game still doesn't perform on far more capable PC hardware at this point in time. With a depressed share price, and with player, gaming press and influencer confidence at a low ebb, and with a product so buggy it bears comparison with the execrable Frontier First Encounters, Frontier Developments now has a massive amount of work ahead of it to recover player sentiment and support. The Steam review percentage continues to drop, with only 31% of reviews positive overall, and worse, the last month's reviews only showing 23% positive at the time of composition of this video, a significant decline despite all of the patches and updates. A number of notable streamers and YouTubers have eased back on their Elite Dangerous content as a result, with many moving to cover other games in the genre until such time as the Odyssey product is fixed. Currently, the console version of Odyssey remains planned for autumn of this year. That will be the next significant moment in the story of the game, and a huge challenge for Frontier to meet. Will Frontier be able to turn the botched launch of Odyssey around and make it a success? Only time will tell.